What is up, guys? Welcome into yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day, however you're watching, however you're following the show, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, for free on the iHeartRadio app, or you're following me or watching on YouTube. We appreciate that as well. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. There are so many things to get to today. There are so many things to get to on this edition of the Ben Garcia Show. Tuesday, October 15th. Later in the day, normally you should have all the episode already in your grubby little hands. But we've had breaking news. We've had trades. There are a lot of things to get to. So let's start right here. Let's start off with what is the breaking news of the day. Normally I would do a Benston reaction to this. But instead, we're doing a full-on show. Davante Adams traded to the New York Jets. Normally, the Monday after, this is probably the Tuesday after Monday Night Football. Normally, I would talk about the instant reaction to between the Bills beating the New York Jets. And I was ready to rip into Aaron Rodgers. I was ready to praise Josh Allen. But no. The Jets spin it on its head. Turns out this trade was done sometime last night, probably directly after the game, but maybe they knew it was going to happen right before it. Either way, doesn't matter. Here's what I'll say. I am a little surprised that the New York Jets went and got Davante Adams and paid a relatively steep price for him. A third-round pick is nothing to scoff at for a wide receiver. A third-round pick that could potentially turn to a second-round pick. But what I'm even more surprised by, that the Jets keep digging themselves a hole. A massive, massive hole. They give in to Aaron Rodgers. They give up more than they should have to trade for him. Then what do? Bring in his buddy OC, Nat Hackett, who's been a debacle. Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, remember he was there for a spell. They bring in all of his buddies. They want to make Aaron feel welcome. Because Aaron is horrendous in uncomfortable situations. Do you know of people who are amazing at what they do, who are just continuously uncomfortable in uncomfortable situations? Or they don't thrive in those aspects of life? The Jets are walking on eggshells consistently for Aaron Rodgers. The only thing I can comp Aaron Rodgers to is a girlfriend that you bring home who doesn't get along with your family. You're walking on eggshells. You're running into the house before she walks in saying, all right, everyone, remember, we're going to be nice to each other. That's what Aaron Rodgers is. Everyone's walking on eggshells. They have to make him happy. Everything is someone else's fault. Robert Saleh takes the fall for him playing horrendously in London. Now Davante Adams needs to come over and save the day. Mike Williams takes the fall, not Aaron Rodgers, for not playing well enough. The Jets went and got Aaron Rodgers for this reason only. 2 minutes to go, 3 minutes to go, late in the game, the ball is in your hands, and you need to score. Last night, the Jets just needed a field goal. Then all you need is the coin toss to go your way, and then score. Aaron Rodgers didn't do that. He had a check down to Breece Hall, decided to go for the long bomb, and still blamed Mike Williams for a ball that was underthrown. Take away the Hail Mary from Aaron Rodgers. Would you get one of those every few years? Some quarterbacks never even get one. Take that away last night. Take away 50 yards, take away a touchdown, and you have a lackluster offense once again. Do you think Davante Adams is truly fixing anything with the Jets? This is just a team that continues to dig themselves into a deeper hole. They give in Aaron Rodgers, they fire the coach, they bring in all of his buddies. They want to make everything comfortable. Everyone's walking on eggshells. They're 2-4. Their season is quickly spiraling down the drain. You know what they do? Double, triple, quadruple down on a 31-year-old wide receiver who is injured already this year. Davante Adams ain't fixing this offense. Davante Adams is just a nice new shiny toy that is going to get in the way of Garrett Wilson's targets, who was already upset with him, or was already upset a few weeks ago not getting the ball enough. Breece Hall, got to feed him too. And an offensive line that is once again having issues giving Aaron Rodgers time. Blitz Aaron Rodgers, he is not the same quarterback. Every time the Bills blitzed, they got a sack on him. Virtually every time. But sure, go get Aaron Rodgers. Go get Davante Adams. Do whatever you have to do to make Aaron Rodgers happy. It's not going to fix anything. This team is not winning the AFC. While the New York Jets are going out and making splashy moves for disgruntled wide receivers who left Aaron Rodgers once, and he'll do it again. Bring him in hopes that he'll fix the offense, in hopes that he'll give them a shot in the arm. The Jets aren't going to win 2 games the rest of the year. I'm sorry. The Jets aren't just going to win 2 games the rest of the year. They'll finish with 8, 9. Heck, maybe they get lucky. Reel off 10 wins. Davante Adams wasn't making this team a Super Bowl contender. They were not a Super Bowl contender before him, and they won't be a Super Bowl contender after him. It doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. And for some reason, the Jets continue to put their faith in Aaron Rodgers running the team. It honestly baffles me that after no results, they continue to take Aaron Rodgers' advice, get in the ear of the owner, and bring in players. You know what hasn't worked so far? Continuously bringing in guys that Aaron Rodgers wants. The defense has a problem with the run. The offensive line can't block anyone. And yet you're prioritizing draft compensation for a wide receiver in a position that you were already fine at. Now, all you did was make it harder to feed everyone. Garrett Wilson was upset just games ago about his target shares. Breece Hall barely started to get utilized correctly last night. You have a new offensive coordinator, or I guess I should say a new offensive play caller, because we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. You think Davante Adams is fixing this team? I am absolutely shocked that the Jets, I guess I shouldn't be, but part of me is absolutely shocked that the Jets keep digging themselves a bigger hole. There are much bigger positions of need on this team, and it ain't at wide receiver. And I'm sorry, Jets fanboy, or I'm sorry, casual NFL fan. Davante Adams is not changing the destiny of this team. They are, at their best, a playoff team who doesn't win a singular game in the playoffs, and at their worst, a 6-win team, a 7-win team. This team has no leadership. They're all over the place, whether it's the front office, whether it's the locker room, whether it's the quarterback, whether it's whatever head coach they have at the time being, because they haven't fired the new guy yet. It's chaos, and it will continue to be chaos. Aaron Rodgers, I guess I should say, anyone that partners up with Aaron Rodgers, it's very similar to partnering up with Kyrie Irving post LeBron James pre-Dallas Mavericks. During that stint where Kyrie Irving was going to the Celtics and going to the Nets or whatever it was, whoever partnered up with him, I just didn't trust their judgment. Because emotionally, he's never available, and physically, he's sometimes available. Aaron Rodgers is starting to look exactly like Kyrie Irving was in the NBA pre-Dallas Mavericks, post-LeBron James. Emotionally, sometimes available, and or I guess I should say, mistaken. Physically, sometimes available, and emotionally, never available. That's where Kyrie Irving and Aaron Rodgers intersect. And anyone that continues to get into that business of Aaron Rodgers, who reminds me of post-Kyrie Irving LeBron James and pre-Kyrie Irving Dallas Mavericks, I just don't trust their judgment. I don't trust Davante Adams' judgment for wanting to get involved in this mess, from going from one mess to another. And I don't trust, clearly, the New York Jets for continuously doing the same thing over and over again. Davante Adams is not changing the future of this team. I'm sorry to break it to you. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. He's not changing the destiny of this team. Because what this team needed was not another perimeter threat. What they needed was more depth on the offensive line and someone to help stop the run. And some leadership at that. It ain't fixing anything. This was as clear as day that it was always going to happen. But the New York Jets will just continue to be the New York Jets. Simply dysfunctional. Well, the New York Jets weren't the only team to make a huge splash trade today. On the inverse, although I didn't like the Davante Adams move to the New York Jets because I think you're just continuously just giving in to everything Aaron Rodgers wants, and that has clearly not worked out to this point. I absolutely love Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills. This Bills team is ready to compete. And what they had last year was a diva wide receiver in Stephon Diggs who demanded his share. Amari Cooper is still very clearly a number one wide receiver. Maybe a low-end number one wide receiver, but a number one wide receiver. And what does this offense need? A clear perimeter threat that can make jump balls and life easier on Josh Allen. Good route runner, the ability to separate, that's what this offense needed. That's what Joe Brady needed. That's what Josh Allen needed. So instead of just saying, well, it's a lot of Josh Allen and James Cook, now you can add in that Amari Cooper effect. And that Amari Cooper effect allows every wide receiver on this roster to come down just a notch and make their workload even easier. So while the New York Jets are fighting for headlines and trying to make their disgruntled quarterback happy and walking on eggshells, the Buffalo Bills show why they are the smarter organization. This is what will always separate the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. One word: dysfunction. While the Jets are going after Davante Adams, trying to make the disgruntled quarterback happy, trying to walk on eggshells, trying to not displease him, trying to make everything around him more comfortable, the Bills said, we're not going to overpay for Davante Adams. We're going to go get the younger wide receiver who has steadily progressed and been good everywhere he's went. That has shown results, whether it's with the Raiders, whether it's with the Cowboys, whether it's with the Browns, and never opens his mouth. When was the last time you saw a headline that was, oh, Amari Cooper, he is tearing apart the locker room. He is making people feel uncomfortable. That's not Amari Cooper. And that's what the Bills needed. And that's what separates the Buffalo Bills' marvelous trade in Amari Cooper that will effectively win them the AFC East and the nonsense that is the Jets trying to make their quarterback happy, trying to win the headlines, trying to stay above 500. That's what the difference will always be. Amari Cooper opens up this offense. I love what it does for Josh Allen. I love the timing of it. I love the ability to add another weapon. I love the ability to alleviate less pressure off of Josh Allen. My biggest concern with the Buffalo Bills was always they were just too bleeping Josh Allen dependent. James Cook helped with that. But then James Cook went down with an injury, missing his first game in his NFL career. Amari Cooper adds another element to this offense, allows them to take some more deep shots. And now you look at the Buffalo Bills and you say, wow, they've got 3 good wide receivers and 2 good backs with the emergence of Ray Davis and 2 good tight ends with Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, and all led by a superstar quarterback. And I might have my issues with Sean McDermott, but I can't lie. He's a capable, smart head coach, even if he can't get over the hump. And sure, the defense has some issues. But what you're supposed to do is exactly what the Buffalo Bills are doing. Identify issues on this team. Identified weaknesses. And go get that player. This defense with the defensive head coach, he'll get the most out of them that he can. Adding a guy like Amari Cooper will open up this offense. This is why now, I tweeted immediately after this trade and I said, and just like that, whatever the odds are, whatever the percentage says, just like that, with the emergence and with the trade of Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills, they just won the AFC East. Because that's what separates them and the New York Jets. Just pure dysfunction. Jets can go win headlines. Jets can make their disgruntled Jets can make their disgruntled quarterback happy. They can walk on eggshells. The Bills will just go get the quietly productive wide receiver who's been good everywhere. A good route runner, stays largely healthy, if I'm not mistaken, as I frantically look that part up. I guess I probably should have had that part prepared. Normally I'll have everything done, but I guess for some reason that just popped in my head. So for the past numerous amount of seasons, 16 games played, 16 games played, 15 games played, 17 games played, 15 games played, 6 games played. Amari Cooper doesn't miss games. And regardless who his quarterback is, could be whoever the Oakland Raiders were running out there, could be Dak Prescott, could be Deshaun Watson or Joe Flacco. The dude just gets 1,000 yards and a handful of touchdowns. That's what this Bills offense needed. A selfless wide receiver that can help take the top off, alleviate pressure off Josh Allen, alleviate pressure from James Cook, and add another element to this offense. And it makes sense. It's do or die for the Bills, or at least in the front office, at least for the coaching staff. Sean McDermott was probably pushing for this deal. What do you think? Sean McDermott, if they don't win this year, if they win one game and flame out in the playoffs, do you think Bills fans are going to be happy? He understands. It's time to load up. They knew they had to get rid of Stephon Diggs. He was starting to become a head case. It was more about him and not about the team. This is Stephon Diggs, but without the nonsense. That's how good Amari Cooper is. That's how good Amari Cooper can be. That is what he will add to this offense. This team last year phased out Stephon Diggs for the last 6 games. We're statistically good, but in the locker room, not so much. A brilliant grab for the Buffalo Bills. It's not about headlines. It's not about any of the nonsense. It's not about making your quarterback happy. It's about football. And that's what will always separate the good and the bad organizations. Not trading for someone to push away the bad headlines for a day, but simple X's and O's. And that's what makes the most sense. Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills is an absolute W. And as all but wrapped up, even with 10-plus games to play, the AFC East. This is exactly what the doctor ordered for the Buffalo Bills. And this is kind of off the cusp, because I have been largely right on this team. Nick Sirianni. And it's nice to see that Philadelphia Eagles fans are starting to side with me. Nick Sirianni, this dude's a loser. He's just a loser. I can't think of anything else to call Nick Sirianni. I've called him every name in the book. I've called him a man-child. I've called him immature. I've called him not a leader of men. I've said everything in the book that I can say about Nick Sirianni. It just doesn't register with this guy. The Philadelphia Eagles are coming off of a bye. And they beat the Cleveland Browns. Barely. They struggle to defeat what is one of the worst teams in football. I honestly don't know who would win at a game, the Carolina Panthers or the Cleveland Browns. I mean, if anything, it'd be a shootout, but in the worst way possible. What, 3-6? A defensive shootout? Deshaun Watson might be the worst quarterback I have watched in the last 5 years. I mean, he's awful. I'm not so sure if he's cooked or if his confidence is just shot. And the Philadelphia Eagles almost lost to that team. And they almost lost to that team coming off of a bye. It almost makes you think, what was Nick Sirianni doing during the bye week? Was he vacationing? Was he content with their record? This Eagles team, I'm ready to pull the plug. I can't do it. I can't do it. As long as Nick Sirianni is the head coach of this Eagles team, they will not make the playoffs. I gave the Eagles so much credit, and I gave them a long leash. And this has nothing to do with a hatred for the Eagles. I couldn't care enough about your team to spend more than 10 seconds disliking them for a podcast. I'll watch your team. I'll have opinions about your team. I'm not going to spend any part of my day outside of this podcast rooting against your team. The talent has always been there. And I have repeatedly said that. And it's allowed me to continue to give the Philadelphia Eagles credit. I've said, listen, this team's going to get in the playoffs just based on talent alone. I'm so past that. I'm so past that. This team looks uncoordinated offensively. They look undisciplined. They don't respect their coach. They are a hodgepodge of everything terrible you could have in a dysfunctional organization. And it just speaks to the volumes of how much of an immature sociopath Nick Sirianni is. The Philadelphia, let me back up before I just go insane. I live in Arizona. The Arizona media, the Arizona sports media, is largely very soft. It's what drives me crazy. I will throw punches, obviously verbally, through a mic, because I demand change. I talk about the Cardinals on this show. I talk about the Phoenix Suns on this show. I'm a big Diamondbacks fan, but I don't talk baseball because I don't know it well enough. Or I guess I should say I don't know it to the expertise that I should know to talk about it. The one thing I can't stand about Arizona sports media, they are so bleeping soft. They do not demand success. They do not demand competency. The fan base here, that is largely irrelevant here. For every me that is a fan of all the Arizona sports teams here, there are, for every one of me, 10 of everyone else who's a fan of another team. This is a melting pot of sports team fandom. We do not demand success. We do not demand competency. That's not something I brag about. At times, it can be incredibly embarrassing. It is a privilege to have a loyal fan base that cares so much, that demands success, that demands competency, that holds you accountable. And you chirp back and forth with them? I'm going to be honest with you. I thought this was a home game. I thought this was an away game for the Browns and Eagles. I legitimately thought they were playing in Cleveland when I saw this highlight. I thought that he was chirping at Browns fans in the crowd, which is wrong in its own. Because even I thought, Nick Sirianni can't be this stupid. He cannot be this stupid that he's fighting with his own fans in the sidelines. And he was. God's honest truth. If I was the owner of that team, I would have fired his ass on the spot. I would have fired Nick Sirianni's ass on the spot. You are supposed to be the leader. You are supposed to be the tone setter. There are some things that are unacceptable. And it is a privilege to have a fan base that demands competency, that demands relevancy, that demands success. Not every sports team has that. I'm speaking from experience. My team that I root for does not have that, and I'm jealous of it. And you go to the stands and argue with them? Oh, God, that is so far past a fireable offense. Not only should Nick Sirianni feel ashamed and embarrassed, the owner and general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles should be ashamed and embarrassed that this buffoon still has a job. You're supposed to be the leader. You're supposed to be the tone setter. You are supposed to be the one that sets the example. And you're fighting with your own fan base? Oh my, there are maybe one or two things in the world you can say to me that could really get me up in arms. I don't know what they were saying, but outside of something absolutely horrendously awful and disgusting, you are the problem, not the fans. You are a child. You are immature. It is a privilege to be the head coach of a football team. It is the privilege to have fans that demand competency, that demand respect, that demand good brand of football. And you go after them? If I was a player, I wouldn't respect him. I wouldn't. I cannot believe that he still has a job. And God's honest truth, I feel bad for the Philadelphia Eagles fan base that they have to deal with this clown. Because that's what Nick Sirianni is. He's a clown. He got his pants pulled down. He realized that everyone knows now that he was propped up by two promising young coordinators, Jonathan Gannon of the Arizona Cardinals and Shane Steichen of the Indianapolis Colts. Calling Nick Sirianni a fraud doesn't do it justice. He's a clown. He's immature. I cannot believe he still has a job. And it's what ultimately made me pull the plug on the Eagles. I've given them the benefit of the doubt because they have so much talent that they'll be a playoff team. They're not going to be one. Any team that is coached by this buffoon or a clown like Nick Sirianni, I can't put in the playoffs. I can't in goodwill put in the playoffs. This league is so much about coaching. It is so much about leadership. It is so often not about as much talent as you think. It's about competency. It's about leadership. It's about coaching. What Nick Sirianni did was unforgivable. And it showed exactly the person that he is. A horrendous head coach. He's not a leader of men. Shame on Nick Sirianni. Shame on the Philadelphia Eagles. Shame on Howie Roseman. Shame on the owner for allowing this to go on. An apology is not good enough. You, with already skidding since last year towards the midway part of the season, do not then get to go after fans because you barely won at home against what could be the worst quarterback in the NFL. I truly cannot believe the Eagles allowed this to happen. It's astonishing. Thinking about it 2 days later, I can't believe Nick Sirianni has a job. The Eagles should have pulled the plug on this guy last year. And I can't fathom with people who say, I'm not the kind of guy that calls for jobs. I am. I'm the kind of guy that calls for a job. You don't do your job correctly and you make millions of dollars, I'm going to call for your job if you're horrible at it. Call it on me. Sorry. I guess I'm the bad guy. I can't stand that. I don't call for jobs. I do. I call for jobs all the time. In the sports world where you make millions of dollars. And it's a privilege to be in the position you're at. I will call for your job. I'll wear that. Nick Sirianni's a clown. He's immature. He needs to be gone. And the Philadelphia Eagles should be ashamed and should be embarrassed that this clown is leading a group of men on a football field. Thanks for tuning in to the Ben Garcia Show. We appreciate you guys making us a part of your day, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, for free on the iHeartRadio app. You're putting a face to the voice and you're watching on YouTube. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend about the Ben Garcia Show. I will be back with you guys on Friday with a reaction to Thursday Night Football as normally promised. Thank you for continuously making the Ben Garcia Show a part of your day. I'm Benjamin Garcia, and until next time, it's been the Ben Garcia Show.